And we're back once again. Happy New Year! We're back once again with the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald coming right back at you here along with my good friend. Well, you know him from Lakerholics.net. He's the man behind it. And also, you got to be a part of the conversation today at Lakerholics.net. I know him as Tom Wong, but you know him as LakerTom. And Tom, I just wanted to again wish you publicly a happy new year to you and your family and a great new decade to come.
Same to you, Gerald. It's been a fun time doing the podcast with you. I really appreciate your professionalism and how you hold everything together, and looking forward to another decade of podcasts.
I'm looking forward to, as well as also the rise of the Lakerholics.net experience also is coming to fruition as well. Glad to see everything as far as the comments are concerned. Everybody's getting excited about the Lakers season that's coming up in this part of the season. So I'm just so happy for that. The Lakers are looking a little bit better now. The homestand, home cooking, as it were, just a lot of, more excitement has been generated. Some still signs of concern. And as I said before we went on the show, I don't know, maybe it's the change in seasons or whatnot, but I don't know, maybe I've been in your head a little bit too much, but I think you're getting a little bit more like me, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing, or maybe it is just more, practicality, sensibility. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, my friend. You've been going out on Twitter and saying some things as far as your opinions on some things that need to be done with the Lakers. And we'll discuss that here in a second, but let's get to the good. The Lakers are now back on a 5-game winning streak at home cooking. Indeed, they're now 4 games ahead in the Western Conference of everybody else, which obviously is a good sign. So maybe Frank Vogel can kind of rest maybe LeBron and AD for a game or two, hey, give it up for, maybe a game or two or whatnot. The Knicks are in town, Tuesday, maybe rest one of them, just an idea I'm throwing out there, just saying that, whatnot. But
it would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be nice. I think it's smart to go ahead and do that, to say, hey, I'm going to give one or both of you a night off. In fact, you know what? Give them both a night off. Don't worry about the streak against under 500 teams. Give them both a night off so you can go ahead and just get them the type of rest they need. But LeBron's not going to stand for it.
Nah, neither is AD. AD's always had this reputation in previous years of getting dinged up all the time and missing games. He'd play 60 games, 70 games a year, but never 82. And it's almost like he's intentionally wanting to make sure that reputation doesn't stick to him on the Lakers, because it doesn't matter how dinged up he is, he's going out there and playing. It's kind of funny. I've been watching the evolution of Frank Vogel's comments from, first being angry that we blew the lead and let teams come back. And then the next game, that was a 36-point lead that we blew. Then the next game, we blew a 24-point lead. Grumbling about that. Last night, he was just grateful that we get the win. And you can sort of see that the evolution is that, we've got some problems, and I think he's starting to realize that the problems when LeBron is off the floor are more serious than he thought at first. And he's always been a guy who's I've been suspect of him from an analytics standpoint. And he has always mentioned, for example, with Rondo, that he looks at players like Rondo and doesn't look at them entirely by just what the stats say. And the stats are pretty brutal in this case, because the Lakers with AD and LeBron on the floor have, one of the best net ratings in the league, like 12.5. When it's just LeBron on the floor, it's still like a net rating of over 9. But when it's just AD on the floor and you lose LeBron's playmaking ability as well as his scoring ability and his intelligence, we drop to a -6. And that shouldn't happen. And I think it's frankly a direct reflection on the problems that Rondo has had since he came back from that hamstring injury. I was a big, I really turned around there, and I was actually lobbying you pretty heavily to support Rondo in his first 11 games, those first 13 games that he played. He really had great numbers, and he was doing a terrific job
He was shooting well from the outside.
Shooting well, but also not just dribbling the ball the entire time, and but now he's just like, I mean, it's almost like he's determined to get Kuzma traded rather than him. You know, the way he's ignoring Kuzma when he cuts and he's open and dribbles the ball down until the clock's run out, and his defense has been horrible. So a lot of the things that I've been pushing in Twitter and on LakerHolics.net have been surrounding the fact that of those three things that we desperately need, you know, the third scorer, the second playmaker, and an elite wing defender, then the need for that second playmaker has really started to become a dominating force behind all of the opinions that I'm expressing about what the Lakers need to do in order to fix their problems.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend. Rondo has just looked awful in this series of games that they've gone on this homestand, especially. He's looked really bad, and I was not drinking that Kool-Aid, my friend. He's really not been good in the entire time he's been with the Lakers. You know, he goes back to even last year. Defensive. No, the numbers stand out.
It was Kool-Aid.
No, the numbers there.
Well at the start.
The numbers dictated out, my friend. Defensively, he's been absolutely horrid.
Yeah.
You know, when he was shooting 53%, okay, that's great. But again, it's still there's a lot. The law of averages. We're just going to catch up with him at some point in time. But defensively, his defensive rating, as I noted to you before even the season even started, that you know the ratings were there. The numbers were there over the course of a year. And, you know, now that he was going to be on a better team, maybe his performance was improved. And you know what? People started to buy into it. But now we've seen Rondo in this latest winning streak. They're winning despite him. They're not winning because of him. They're winning despite Rajon Rondo. And that is the problem that they need to address. Kuzma, he's on 1 minute, he's off one game, he's off on one game, he's off one. That's too inconsistent right now. That's not a good sign as well. We don't know where he actually fits in the offense because he gets shots one game, he doesn't get it the other. And I feel bad for him in a way because if he doesn't start out hot, he's not going to get the ball later on in the entire game. And that to me is an issue. He needs to get consistent time and minutes before you go ahead and say, let's go ahead and eject him for the first available player that you see in the marketplace. So I'd like to give Kuzma a little bit more of an opportunity before you go ahead and eject. You still have time before the trade deadline. Right. And I know you've lobbied for players such as Bojan Bogdanovic from Sacramento. I'm not as keen on Bogdanovic as you are, but I think that, you know, I don't think you're getting a drastic improvement if you go ahead and get him. It is an improvement, more consistent, but I'm not sure it's as much as you want it to, or it's as much it's going to be needed for the Lakers long term. I still think that the trade with some of the players that we saw last night in Detroit, I think that was probably something that you could do that's more feasible and probably more effective, because if you were able to go ahead and get Derrick Rose, I know there's been some issues because of his unlawful background, I should say, for lack of a better term. Christian Wood, who has come, basically off the scrap heap and made himself a capable player, and also Markieff Morris, which you noted to me was the wrong Morris you wanted, but still he shoots very well, plays okay defense. Again, that still leaves you to go ahead and try out for a Darren Collinson, Andre Iguodala. I'm talking about getting rid of the players that are not effective for you now, and I'm not talking about Boogie Cousins, because it's clear that Rob Pelinka wants to go ahead and keep Boogie Cousins because of the hope that he might bring to you once he gets back from his injuries. But still, the Troy Daniels of the world, the Quinn Cooks of the world, the Jaron Dudleys of the world, those individuals, they don't play. So
the problem with those individuals is they also don't have trade value.
Yeah, well, they don't have trade value, but Kuzma does. So if you're able to go ahead and eject Kuzma and those three players, you have that space. It doesn't ruin the team chemistry, so to speak, because Kuzma's the only one that really plays effectively or anytime at all. And Kuzma, on a lot of occasions can be easily replaced. Don't let my daughter hear that, because she and I are both still big fans of Kuzma. But I got to say what I say. Like you said, I tell it like it is. I see the Lakers for what it is, and I try to go ahead and ascertain they do need some things that they need taken care of. Does of any fix that you've brought up or we brought up really help the situation? The ones that are feasible, no. I mean, the ones that we go ahead and we talk about on Twitter that are really feasible, that we could possibly get. We could possibly get a Bojan Bogdanovic. We could possibly get a Derrick Rose and some other players. That could help, but I'm not sure it's a fix-all. I think if Iguodala can come back and we get him, and Darren Collinson, he is somebody that, even though he's been out of the league for 6 months, which you and I know is sometimes a lifetime, and it's hard to catch up, especially for a 32-year-old player. Taking a flyer on him wouldn't be so bad, because he can shoot the three consistently. He's proven that when he led the league 2 years ago. He proved that last year when he was still a very effective player. I think that's something the Lakers need to take a chance on, because these back rotation players who do not play very much at all, you need to go ahead and start tweaking now and go ahead and see if you have something special for the long term.
I think there's a couple of things that have jumped out to me. I think we've gotten answers to two questions that are really hard questions to answer. One of them is a certainty that Rondo is not the answer for the second playmaker. I think the jury's still out on the question about whether or not Kyle Kuzma is the answer for the third scorer. And the only benefit of the doubt that I'm giving Kuzma at this point in time is that I don't think he's got a point guard in the lineup that's really giving him a fair chance. So I think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, as we watch what happens, Kuzma's got to come through and perform. He's got to come through and show that he's worth it. And if he doesn't, then I think the Lakers are going to make changes. I'm in the middle of an article that I'm almost ready to publish on LakerHolics.net and on Medium. And the gist of the article basically is that the Lakers don't have the trading chips or the assets to make a big move that counts. But what they do have is opportunities to make 5 small moves that could equal a big move. And those 5 small moves are a couple of things. They're moves basically to replace 5 players on the roster by trade, and then to replace them with 2 people that they get back in trade, and 3 players that they add as free agents. Well, actually 2 players as free agents. One of them is an upgrade from a 2-way contract. So the article basically, the gist of it, the first step basically is that I really do believe that Bogdanovic would be the perfect fit for the Lakers. There was a great article with Bill Simmons and a couple of other people had brought up the trade. And I think that there's 3 things that you get out of Bogdanovic. The first is to realize that he's 3 years older and a lot more mature than Kuzma is. He's much more of a polished and finished product, whereas Kuzma's still a work in progress. Bogdanovic is by far a better 3-point shooter. He's by far a better defender. His real plus minus defensively is excellent. And he's a great playmaker. He actually averages 3.5 assists. The Lakers don't have anybody other than Rondo who even averages 2 assists per game. So Bogdanovic has very high ratings. If you look at his B-ball index, he's excellent ratings, A- for pick and roll handlers and pick and roll scorer. So he's a guy who can score off a pick and roll, and he's the kind of guy who would really, I think, make a big impact for it. The trade would be Kuzma and probably Cook. That makes up enough money so that you can make that trade, Kuzma and Cook for Bogdanovic. Then I would take that extra roster spot and I would give it to Collison. I think Collison has shot over 40% for 4 straight years. So he's an outstanding shooter. He doesn't have a large volume, but the thing that's great about him is that he doesn't take bad shots. He's very decisive about when he shoots and when he doesn't shoot. He moves the ball. He can play on and off the ball. He's an excellent defender. And he basically is a guy who doesn't make mistakes. He's got one of the best assist to turnover ratios for any of the players in the league at this point in time. And you just hope that he can get back after being off 6 months. I think that's a valid point if he comes back. And I think the key is that the Lakers are in a better position. They can offer him the $1.75 million trade injured player exception that they got from DeMarcus Cousins, which is twice what anybody else can offer him, because that exception doesn't prorate itself over the season the way that the minimum veteran exception does and others do. So he gets that full $1.75 million. The most the Clippers could offer would be $900,000. And then there's the main issue of playing time. The Lakers can offer him more minutes and more responsibility. He theoretically could start with the Lakers than he could with the Clippers. From there, then I think you move to what I think is the next trade that's really essential trade. And I think that the goal of that trade is to basically improve the team's playmaking, defense, and rebounding. And I think that the player that the Lakers want to get is Robert Covington. I think they could trade Horton Tucker, Bradley, and Daniels for Robert Covington. That brings them a wing player who's an elite defender. He's only shooting 33% from three, but he's been better than that in the past. You immediately get a second defender in there, and you get 2 roster spots that you open up. And I'd give one of those roster spots to Iguodala, and I'd give the other roster spot by promoting Kaycock, who I think is an outstanding young player who plays defense, hits the boards hard, fills up some of the gaps that we've got in power forward. And you end up with a 5-player trade, basically. You're putting in 5 new players for the 5 players that you lose. You lose Cook, you lose Daniels, you lose Kuzma, Bradley, and in return, you're picking up some excellent players. You're picking up a point guard that you need who can fill that second playmaker need. You're picking up a scorer in defenders in Iguodala and Covington. You're getting Kaycock some playing time, and he's a player who basically we moved to 2 ways simply because we couldn't afford to lose him. He's just such a good prospect for the South Bay Lakers. And I think those are the types of moves that you've got to make. You're not going to make a big trade. We're not going to make a big trade where we're going to give Danny Green and anything over $10 million a year or $12 million a year. You basically have to include somebody like Green just as a salary ballast. This way you keep the core chemistry of the team together, and at the same time you improve defensively, you improve playmaking wise, you improve shooting wise. You've got a guy like Bogdanovich who's just 3.5 assists per game, and you've got a guy like Collison who averaged 6 assists per game. So all of a sudden your playmaking is better. You're more of a veteran team because you've added veterans over younger players. And that's I think what you have to do as the Lakers for a win now situation.
Some things I'm going to nitpick on it because that's just me. As you always say, I'm the glass half full guy. First off, as far as a hustle standpoint, Kaycock, Devontae, nice guy, but undersized. 6'8". If you want to play him at the center's position, he's going to get eaten alive in the NBA.
We don't need him at the center position. We're so strong at center that it's ridiculous. I mean, we had 3 guys who blocked 18 shots yesterday.
But he'll never get any time at power forward. And
he's the 14th and 15th guy on the roster.
And he's
the emergency in case of injury.
But he's very one-dimensional.
Look at the guys that you get who really are going to make a difference. You're getting Collison. You're getting Bogdanovich.
Oh, hold on. Well, that's why I think I've got something a little bit better. And I made the trade out there, and I put it out there on LakerHolics.net. I still think, you go ahead and trade Kuzma, you trade Cook, and you trade Daniels or Dudley, and you get D Rose, Marcus Morris, and you also get
Marcus Morris, or
no, you get Markieff Morris, and you also get the player from UNLV. Oh gosh, escapes my name. Escapes my head. Oh gosh, I get it from last night. Here, real quick. This is going to have to be edited. Gerald did a mistake. Oh yeah, Christian Wood. You get Christian Wood. I think that's probably a better situation for the Lakers. All three can hit the outside shot.
You like those better than Collison, Bogdanovich?
Well, hold on. Definitely better than Bogdanovich because of the fact I think that it's going to take a little bit more to get Bogdanovich than what the Lakers have. I do think he's a solid player. Bogdanovich is, and I think he's an upgrade from Kuzma, but I don't think he's a substantial upgrade that is going to be able to make a discernible difference. I think D Rose is a great playmaker. It doesn't hit the outside shot well, but anything from 15 feet in, he's really good. And he still has some of his quickness from his MVP days. Not all of it, but you saw it last night when they played the Lakers. He was still very, very effective. Markieff Morris shooting almost at 40% from the three-point lane, and he's a decent 6'8" wing for you. Can not necessarily play great defense, but plays solid enough defense and does rebound for you. And also, like I mentioned, Christian Wood, who has come on off the scrap heap to show everybody that he can do more than fill it up with three-pointers. And he played pretty good last night against the Lakers front line, although he and Andre Drummond really helped out the Lakers block party really a lot. That was interesting to see. But, he's a decent player as well. I think he'd be an upgrade from K-Cog. And you have those. Plus, you would create room by also jettisoning off Dudley and Rondo. Especially Rondo, you would have to eat the second year in his contract, which, again, I know
you're going to trade Rondo or you're waiving him?
I would waive him. You're going to have to eat the second year of the contract. Oh. But, I'm Rob Pelinka's walking up and down that high aisle right now, and the Lakers office is going, you know what, I never should have signed Rondo in the first place. And
you got a big problem there, Gerald, first off, because
why? Because
hold on. Unless Rashawn wants to be waived, you're not going to waive him. He's a big part of
you have that right, though. You have that right.
You have that right, but by the same token, it's not the kind of move that Frank Vogel or Rob Pelinka are going to do. Rondo has great respect in that locker room, and I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up next year of Rondo retiring and becoming an assistant coach on the staff.
Well, that one, I've told you that one earlier in the season. I thought he would, as a player, I thought he would make a great coach. I've always said that.
He would make a great coach. He would make a great coach, but
he should do it now. Get Collison in there and get Iguodala in there. So you have 5 for 5.
Let's see if we can start with. Let's see where we agree. Okay, first off, both of us agree. Here's the point. I think if the Lakers. There's two givens, I think, that happen, which are two players that you can get to sign in Collison and in Iguodala, who will extremely improve the team. And all you have to do is outbid or make a better case for going with the Lakers than the Clippers. Okay? And the way you do that is the Lakers just continue to win. The Clippers have already lost as many games as the Lakers have. The Clippers with Kawhi have lost as many games as the Lakers have. So the Lakers continue to win. They're going to get those two players. And there's no way anybody's going to trade for Iguodala at this point in time. It's not going to happen. So basically, if you start with those two players, that you're going to get those two players, that almost eliminates making some crazy moves. So then it really comes down to the Kuzma situation. What can you get from Kuzma? And if you can get a player like Bogdanovich, great. But I think a better solution, I think Collison is a better solution at point guard than Derrick Rose. For one thing, the money is so much easier to make. You don't have to get rid of as many players. And secondly, there's some issues with Rose. There's some issues with Rose and LeBron. It's not a natural thing that he's going to want to have that player. And also, you've still got another point guard then who basically is not going to stretch the floor. And that's one of the big problems that Rondo does. Even when Rondo was shooting 50% from the field, the guys were still leaving him open to take that shot for the obvious reasons that he does not have any gravity on a three-point shot. And that's still a situation with Rose. He's also got a second year on his contract too, I believe. So I think that, I would look to Rose, for example, if Collison was not available. If Collison decided to go with the Clippers or decided to change his mind and stay retired and devote himself to his ministry. But you can't turn down two players that would cost you nothing more than waiving or using as trade ballast guys at the end of the bench. That's the first place. So I think whatever the Lakers do has got to be built around small moves like that rather than a big move. I mean, I'd love to get Drew Holiday or the guy from Oklahoma City, Schroeder. These would be impact point guards for the Lakers. It's obvious that Miami's probably not at this point in time gonna trade their left-hander who just had 29 points.
The love affair with Davis Bertans is over when you realize how much he's going to cost.
I don't think I'm not worried about what the guy's going to cost. Bogdanovich is a free agent next year, and he's going to cost in the summer. Bertans.
No, I meant as far as a price tag, as far as a trade is concerned, because I think when it comes down to it,
the price for either one of them is Kuzma.
I think it's going to take more than Kuzma.
I don't think so, because Kuzma, there's value to Kuzma because he's 24 years old. He's 3 years younger than each of those.
He's young, guys. He can score, and he's cheap. I get that.
And he's got 2 years to go that they can keep him as a restricted for a second year. But the problem is that both teams, if you look at the finances of both the Kings and Bogdanovich, they've already committed more money than anybody thought they would commit, and they're not going to go into the luxury tax for Bogdanovich. Okay, so Bogdanovich knows that he's going to be on the trade market. Bertans is exactly in the same situation. If they could keep Bertans if they wanted. The Wizards could go into the luxury tax and pay that and keep him, but everybody knows they're not going to do that. So he's going to be let go. He's going to be traded, and so is Bogdanovich. Now the Lakers in a different situation because the Lakers would have to make a decision, and a lot of it will depend upon whether they win or not. If they win a championship with one of those guys, they're going to re-sign him. If they don't win a championship with one of those guys and Giannis re-signs with the Bucks as a supermax, then they're probably not going to, then these are the types of guys that they'd be going after as free agents in the summer of 2021. So they'd be going after Bradley Beal and they'd be going after those types of guys. Or Bogdanovich, So I think that there's a good chance that the Lakers would re-sign them. It's going to cost them, and it would probably take them out of the running of a max contract player for summer of 2021. But if you win a championship with these guys, then it's worth doing it. Those are the moves you make at that point in time. You don't care whether you're paying luxury taxes because we have the revenue that those teams don't have. It all comes down to that. Now, Lakers exceptionalism, if they feel that they really had a chance and Giannis decided that he wasn't going to take the Supermax and Giannis was still on the market, I think it might be a Kawhi type mistake, if you will, not to re-sign a guy like Bogdanovich or Bertans because the money was out there. And there's not going to be much competition for them. But again, the teams that are going to be looking to sign them aren't any of the better teams. They aren't a team where they're going to go to a winner. It's not, all of the teams that are now competing in the upper echelons, the teams that are in the top 5 or 6 in each conference, they're all spent up to the limit and looking at luxury tax possibilities if they go any further. Unless it's somebody that makes a trade for them. We've all of a sudden seen that last year, sign and trades were like dead for like 3 years. And then all of a sudden last year, everybody wanted to sign and trade everybody. So that the Warriors have got a point guard that they'd love to sign and trade for somebody because they signed and traded to get him. So you could see D'Lo being traded for somebody, who's in a good situation like that. But I don't know. You see, I'm not high on D Rose as the type of player who would be right on the Lakers. I think Collison, because all you have to do is jettison Cook or Daniels to get Collison. I think we'll get Collison. And I think we'll get Iguodala because Iggy's got to have a point where none of the teams that he would want to go to are going to be the teams that might be willing to trade for him at the deadline. And at that point in time, he's going to look at, he's already gotten half of his 17 million. So he's going to look at that other 8 or 9 million and he can easily give up $4 or $5 million in order to get a buyout and then choose where he wants to go. And I think that'll be with the Lakers. So I think the key is the Lakers just have to keep winning. They have to keep playing better than everybody else, and that will make people want to come to the Lakers. And I don't think they're going to make any other big moves. I think they'll make some sort of small moves. It could be for a guy like Bertans. I think Marcus Morris would be a much more logical possibility than Markieff Morris. That's my opinion.
Well, I understand that, Marcus Morris would be a better option, but he's not. It's not by leaps and bounds over Markieff. Markieff is still a very good player, having a pretty good season. Again, he's shooting very well from the 3-point area, so it's not exactly like a huge downgrade. I'm just saying as far as a package deal, because I know Detroit will want to get off those contracts in order to go ahead and if they wanted to be interested in acquire someone like Kyle Kuzma and whatnot. But again, there's the issue of not having any picks, because I know when it comes down to it, when you're bartering between a Denver, when you're bartering between a Clippers, when you're bartering between Utah or any of the top teams that are out there, Philadelphia, what have you, picks are always going to be involved. The Lakers are a little bit short-handed in that type of situation. So that's also the reason why when I say I don't think they're going to get this player or that player or whatnot, that's also my reasoning when I say that as well. So those
I think you're right in that case. We definitely are short. We're definitely short on picks.
What are you going to do? You're going to trade for Anthony Davis, or you're not going to trade for Anthony Davis?
No, you have to do that.
Yeah. So you made your bed, you lie into it. So that's pretty much what it comes down to. But like I said, it's a good time though, and you said it best. The Lakers just have to keep on winning, and they're doing so. I mean, last night's game against the Pistons, a record 20 blocks, just really just a block party that was just awesome to see. With the Lakers did not play well last night.
No,
and did not shoot
well. They just fouled everybody is the problem. I mean, they just foul.
They just overwhelmed everybody with the blocks, and that's what kept them in the game. As you've always stated, defense is going to keep the Lakers within this parameter if they want to go ahead and be at that top level. And they can go ahead and try and outshoot everyone, and their offense could get hot and whatnot, but their defense has to stay with it in order to go ahead and beat the champions or come out at an NBA Finals level. So we saw that last night. They can have a horrible game at 3/4 of what they're doing, but as long as they're going ahead and playing defense and blocking shots, that's what kept them in the game, despite a horrible third quarter. And I'll tell you what, it was still impressive to see so much defense, so much importance laid in as far as the block shots are concerned. And it really frazzled Detroit to the point, especially in the fourth quarter, it got them intimidated, and to the point where you saw the Lakers go ahead and have that mental edge. And it's so nice to have that height. It's so nice to have those three players that can really do a number for you defensively. And as long as the Lakers keep continuing to win, even though it's not the most impressive, even though they've given up big leads in almost every game, on this homestand, they're still winning, and that's the point. Right. The Clippers, they're just not focused. There's an issue there sometimes. Sometimes when they have a player out, like the past couple games, they've had either Paul George or Kawhi Leonard out. You see the issues there. They have three players that scored 30 points each in the same game, and they're barely winning, or they're barely losing. And the fact is that the rest of the team, for some reason, just can't get it going and gelling with them. And that's something I think Doc Rivers has got to be concerned about, because they only get up for a certain amount of players, a certain amount of teams, and that's something that they have to address as a team on their own. But with the Lakers, they seem to do well enough each and every game that puts them out on top. And as long as they stay focused on the defensive end, they're going to be right there at the end. Again, little tweaks aside, they're still a great defensive team as long as they set their mind to it. And I think it just comes down to the mental focus you have for the rest of the season.
I think also there's two ways of looking at teams. When we got AD and you have two superstars like LeBron and Anthony Davis and the type of defense that they're playing, I think one of the things that jumps out is that your superstars can determine not only what your ceiling is, but also what your floor is. And the Lakers have an unusually high floor just because of LeBron and AD. That's why they are undefeated against these teams that are under 500. It's why they can continue to do well on the road. The Clippers can get up for single games, but that's not going to be as effective when you get into the playoffs and you're playing a 7-game series against the same teams. You're not going to be the Bucks with Giannis hitting 5 out of 8 3-point shots. That's not going to happen very many times in a 7-game series. It can happen on one big game. And the same thing with Kawhi hitting all those threes and so forth. You watch the next couple of games after the Lakers game, and Kawhi wasn't hitting those threes, and he wasn't making those great defensive plays that he was able to make against the Lakers. Not taking anything away from Kawhi or even Paul George. But the simple fact is the Lakers, because of Anthony Davis and LeBron James, have a unique floor that is much higher than other teams. That's going to help them end up with a good record at the end of the year. And it makes them uniquely difficult to deal with in a 7-game series. And I think that's their big advantage. So I think if we didn't have Andre Iguodala sitting out there and Darren Collison sitting out there, 2 guys who we could get from the buyout market that could solve 2 of our 3 desperate needs. We need that third scorer, we need a second playmaker, and we need an elite wing defender. Well, that elite wing defender is Andre Iguodala. That second playmaker, I think, is Darren Collison. The question about who is going to be that third scorer is another whole issue. One thing I would say in favor of Rose, if you got a guy like Rose, he could be that third scorer. He is that third scorer. He's still good enough, despite not having the otherworldly athleticism that he had in his MVP seasons. The guy is still quick, and he's crafty, and he's very tough to handle. So he could be the third scorer. Kuzma could be the third scorer if he had a point guard who could get him the ball when he's open, and when he makes great cuts and so forth. So the Lakers are, despite all of the differences that you and I may have on exactly whom they should trade for and what moves they should make, the simple reality is we lead the league by 4 games in the loss column. Nice 4 solid wins. We've got an easy schedule this month. If you compare the January to December, it's a much easier schedule. We should go through that schedule, and by the end of January, we should have more than a 4-game lead. We might have a 6-game lead. So as we hit that February 6th trade deadline, a lot is going to depend on what happens with Collison and what happens with Iguodala. If we end up getting those 2 players, then I think we might even just stick with Kuzma.
I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and petition Adam Silver instead of this tournament thing, which we'll get. We're going to have to touch on it. I know I'm going to touch on it with TJ Johnson. Whenever I can get hold of him, he tells me he's not feeling well. Of course, the holidays. Now I hear rumors he might be on a boat somewhere, sailing the open seas. But I do want to. I know you and I wanted to talk about, so I'm hoping to get him on Friday. But for you, my friend, I want to talk to you about next week as far as the tournament's concerned, all the schedule changes and all that. But you think maybe we could petition Adam Silver to play the Knicks every single game in January?
I think it would be great. It would be the worst thing to happen for the NBA's television ratings, that's for sure.
That's true, but I would enjoy it.
Well, the Knicks, didn't they get within 3? I think Marcus Morris went off, and they got within 3 points of the Clippers, and I was astonished when I saw that score.
Well, since they made the coaching change, they played a lot better. And you know what? If the Lakers don't keep their mind to it, they can get beat by any team on any given day. Yep. They've been getting scares lately, so I shouldn't say that too out loud when it comes to
those scares. That's that whole thing I'm talking about with the floor. When you got AD and LeBron, you got a whole different floor for those close games. It's I had to admit myself. There were a couple of times last night I turned to my wife, who's just sitting there reading books while I'm reading magazines while I'm watching the game, and I said, we could lose this game very easily.
It felt like a loss.
LeBron takes a long three, and I'm going, oh, come on, LeBron.
It felt like a loss. It did feel like a loss coming up, especially that third quarter where they just came out and just laid an egg.
Oh, the fourth quarter, after we get the 17-0 run and we're up by 9 points, all of a sudden we're behind by a point again.
Yeah, so
that's the resilience that you've got, and listen, just as a basketball player, I've played so many games where You have to really understand how important it is when you have the best player on your team. I mean, there's a level of confidence that playing with LeBron gives guys that you can't get anywhere else. You know, it's not the same thing. It's not fair. That's the truth of the matter. It's just freaking not fair when you got LeBron James and then you got Anthony Davis. That three that he hit from the corner, first three of the night, was just something beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing. So, you know, we have a high ceiling that we haven't gotten close to approaching, but we've sure taken advantage of the high floor that those guys give us. It's very hard for an underdog team to take this team down the way that they can take down the Clippers, the Rockets, or any of those other teams that are out there. And the Bucks have a little bit of the same thing with Giannis. They have the reigning MVP, and he may not hit 5 out of 8 threes in every game, or even maybe just one game a year. But when you got that guy on your team, you know that makes everybody just an increment, a little bit better player, a little more confident. They know if they miss that shot, that guy's there and he's going to get a rebound and could turn it around.
Well, fair enough, my friend. I tell you what, there's still a lot of things that we need to see from the Lakers before you and I feel, you know, really at ease with the fact that I think the Lakers still will be able to be a major force in the NBA playoffs coming up, and still I think there's going to be little tweaks, like you said, that need to be made at some point in time and still need to be addressed. The Clippers, you know, we can focus on them all we want, but still there are other great teams out there that still also have laid claim to being a force in the league, and you've mentioned some of them as well. So it's going to be interesting to see over the next few weeks as the trade deadline grows ever near and the rumors and on Twitter get ever stronger, and the fantasy trades that at LakerTom will still keep throwing out there at everyone because they're out there. And, you know, always the comments alone, just to read the comments that respond to you, you know, half of them think you're good, half of them think you should be institutionalized. And
I normally don't get as many negative comments as I gotten on a couple of those trades.
Well, some of them,
a couple of trade proposals that I all of a sudden I look at my mentions and it's like 35 mentions. It's like, what?
Well, some of them I had to scratch my head. I'll be honest with you. Some of them were pretty good. Some of them were just some. Yeah, again, it's all about the assets. What do the Lakers have as assets? You know, realistic and not realistic. What can they actually do, and what can they actually propose and compare to as, say, a Denver or as, say, you know, some of the other teams that have a little bit more in the cachet. Even a team like Oklahoma City, if they want to go ahead and be a major force in the league, they probably have more in the treasure chest than anybody right now. Boston still has some left over that many years that they have.
I thought Boston would not be as good as they are.
Yeah, and they have still not a lot of nice stuff in that war chest, including that Memphis #1 pick. I believe they still have. So they've got a lot of stuff. It's so hard to go ahead.
You got the Rockets who always come through with some major. You know that he's not going to stand pat.
Well, Daryl Morey cannot stand pat because
Daryl Morey will not stand pat. I'll predict that right now.
Well, exactly, because
the Clippers aren't going to stand pat either.
No,
they're going to make a move. And all of that basically says that the Lakers can't stand pat either.
No, and they can't stand pat.
You lose.
Well, Daryl Morey, I will just say this. It's obvious that, you know, the comments that he made over the summer have not sat well still to this day with certain individuals in the NBA and even on his own team, a.k.a. his owner. And if he doesn't produce a winner that goes to the NBA Finals, I think he's out. I think they're going to just say, you know what, Trader Daryl, no matter how good you've made this team, you're out. And which would be a shame because to me, I think he's been a good GM, maximizing whatever team that he has because he really doesn't have a complete team. But you know what? He catered it around one player. And when you do that, that's, you know, you're limited on your options. So, you know, it's neither here nor there. But you know what? There's still a great season left to come. Trading season is now upon us. Crazy trade scenarios aside, if you want to check out everything that LakerTom is doing, check out at LakerTom today on Twitter, also as well his great articles on medium.com. And of course, to be a part of the conversation, throw out your crazy Laker trades and your crazy stuff that I saw, like even today when you're talking about the best Kentucky Wildcats or that are right now in the league. And that list, I think, I love the people on LakerHolics.net, but some of them were scratching my head. Okay, having Jamal Murray number 12, I think was really just, I think, a low blow. I think was just being mean. I'll just say that out there. But because he's actually a lot better than that. When you're the starting point guard for the Denver Nuggets, you have to be a little bit higher on the food chain there. But hey, it's not my list, so I'll just say that. But there's a lot of things that are going on there at LakerHolics.net. So you got to check out the conversation today, LakerHolics.net. And for us here at Lakers Fast Break, again, you can always contact us on the Twitter as well, at Lakers Fast Break. You can give us a great 5-star review at iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe, you can like us and do all that thing. Lakers Fast Break on Facebook, of course, Lakers Fast Break at yahoo.com. And I want to say again, Happy New Year to everyone out there, and a special thank you to everyone who's listened to us. Several hundred have listened to us on the Anchor channel, even more so on all the other channels that are out there, and also on our Pop Culture Cosmos channel, which replays the shows as well. So I cannot thank you enough for doing so, and hopefully a great season coming up ahead for us here at the Lakers Fast Break podcast. But LakerTom, it's been great talking to you, my friend, but before we head on out, we got to hear your thoughts on what's coming up at LakerHolics.net.
Well, Gerald, I think everybody is eager to see what happens this month, and I think most of us all agree that there's going to be some changes happening with the Lakers. I think just like we were talking about, our competition is not going to stand pat. Not when the Lakers continue to have the best record in the West. So they're going to make moves, and that means basically that the Lakers and Rob Pelinka have to make some moves too. So join us at LakerHolics.net. Become part of the conversation. I think you'll really enjoy the quality of conversation and the quality of the posts and the comments back and forth. It's just an environment that I think intelligent fans that want to get away from a barstool type approach to sports and really want to talk with other people who appreciate the finer nuances of the game and appreciate what's happening with the Lakers and the great team that we have this year. It's a perfect place for you to come and join the conversation.
Although Julius Randle was kind of low as well. I don't know about that one.
He's a former Laker. What can you say? There's a lot of, basically most of
below
the people.
Malik Monk? Willie Cauley-Stein? Really? He's averaged 2010.
I've never been a big Kentucky guy myself because I've always thought that a lot of those guys were kind of overrated when they got in the league. There have been a few of the great ones that have come through, but it's they're not. Let me put it this way: I don't put them in the same category as I put John Wooden's UCLA Bruins.
No, and mind you, I wouldn't either. But come on,
it's just a different era.
Julius Randle below Tyler Ulis? Really?
Well, that's what happens when you go to the Knicks, man.
I guess so. Well, it's been a great episode indeed. I want to thank you, Tom, as always, for being a part of the show. Just incredible having you here each and every time. I love the fact that you're so patient with me and dealing with all my eccentricities, I should say. So, my thoughts and opinions, and I'm just glad you're very patient with me, and I truly cannot thank you enough for being a part of it. And just so great to have you here. And again, thank you to everyone out there listening that listened to us in 2019 and hoping for more great things here this season, right here on the Lakers Fast Break podcast.